Good afternoon.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Hi,
So thank you
Catherine.
for joining us
Thank,
today.
thank you so much for inviting.
The floor is yours. The timer will start once you share your screen, and you can see maybe the
Okay.
timer later on with my colleague.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you. So should I start? As the time is very less time, so I think we should be on time. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Catherine and Ali, for inviting me to share about our startup ecosystem that is Bangladesh. Basically, you talked about Dhaka, but I try to cover a bit about the whole ecosystem, what we are doing about. So I'm Asif Iqbal. I'm the founder and CEO of Incubators Connect, and also the director of Global Entrepreneurship Network in Bangladesh. And also I'm teaching here entrepreneurship in the leading private university in Bangladesh. So if we talk about the Bangladeshi startup ecosystem, there are three key drivers here. One is like the strong economy is the vital point for our startups, then demographic bulge in the right skill set, and lastly, we are in the inflection point. So I will actually talk about these three. So first of all, you can see a quick look about the whole, a bit about the Bangladesh. So, it's the 37th largest economy and one of the fastest growing country in the world. And also we have a GDP growth rate is almost about 6.8% over the last decade. And also the economy is on the track in graduating from the LDC status in 2024. And also our key we actually dominates in the R&D sector, and we are in the third position just after China and also Vietnam, as you see in this chart. And also the ICT sector is also booming. We are exporting more than 800 million US dollar in the last all over the world in terms of ICTs. And again, lastly, I just must mention that we have a population of all like 166 million, and also has reached the 37% urbanization. Also connectivity has reached its peak. As you know, our government is more focusing on creating digital Bangladesh. So in terms of connectivity, internet users, so it is actually in the peak point. So almost everyone of the country are using internet and mobile phones for their daily uses. Then again, I must say that mobile financial service or the fintech is the growing startup, growing for in terms of a startup ecosystem in the country. Every 2 out of 3% actually have an MFS account in Bangladesh, and also 10 million transaction of 250 million US dollar per day transaction happens in the different MFS service. And also e-commerce market is expected to grow more than $3 billion in 2023. ICT sector has also grown 40% annually since 2010. And lastly, Bangladesh government is doing a lot of things, a lot of activity to boosting the entrepreneurship or startup ecosystem. And also there are a lot of support system. Recently, they have announced 65 million of US dollar for the startup. They announced that they'll give 100 startups. They have already disbursed some of the funding for several startups recently. And there are also several factors of the ecosystem, as the time is very limited. So I might not show all this to you. But again, I must say that 50% of tech adaptable young population are under 35 years. This is one of the things. Another factor is like this. 5,000 plus IT graduate each year is creating a strong group of entrepreneurial waves focused on solving critical problems, including those during the pandemic time as well. Then this one, recently we have got several international funding for several big amount of funding for several startups, with more than 200 million dollar have international investment from big names, corporate investors, venture capital investing in the industries. Like they have invested heavily on fintech, logistics, and mobility. As I talk that MFS is the leading startup. MFS is the leading sector in terms of the startup ecosystem in Bangladesh. Recently, we haven't any unicorns till 2020, but recently we have one unicorn nowadays, that is Bikash. You have shown that in the Startupblink space. They are the first unicorn in Bangladesh, and they have got a huge funding from the SoftBank, and their SoftBank's first investment is that as well. Then we have more than 1,200 active startup in the country. There are more than 200 new startups born every year, and several, as I told, that $200 million VC funding happens in the last few years. There are more than 200 and active angels who actually boosting the angel networks of the country. There are more than 1.5 million total employment have been created by the startup of the country. Then these are the different sectors. We have recently had done an ecosystem report that from these we have seen that we have categorized three sectors. One is mature sector, emerging sector, and nascent sector. In the mature sector, as you see, that fintech and then logistic, e-commerce, and digital media is there. Then emerging sector, edtech, health tech, service sector is there, and nascent sector is the gaming, agri-tech, IoT, deep tech, and analytics is growing sector in the country. And these are the number of accelerator incubator who actually help the startup to grow in the country. There are several national and international incubator, as well as there are a lot of universities actually coming forward to boost up the entrepreneurship ecosystem in the country. There are also there are global investors. We have an active global angel network, that is Bangladesh Angel is working actively. There are several government initiative like Startup Bangladesh, and the A2I is working for the startup development. Several international investors actually come to the country to invest our startups, especially on the fintech, e-commerce, and also the several other sectors. I'm very close to the end of the presentation, and lastly, we have recently find this startup difficulty index. As I mentioned that we have done an ecosystem report. According to the report, we have find the difficulties of a startup. So based on, we have found 18 key difficulties of the startups who are actually operating in the country. Among them, these three of the main problems of the startup is the finding the right co-founder is the problem. Then finding the good team and access to fund is the key problems of our startup. So we as a team of the startup ecosystem builders are working on this issue along with the government. And also during this pandemic, as you see, this grocery, digital financial, and logistic is the growing industry during this pandemic, other than these industries. But these three are actually growing. And these are a very quick look, and I hope I could get more time to share more things about you. I have shortened this presentation so that I might be on time. So thank you, Catherine, over to you.
Thank you, Asif. Thank you for that great presentation. If you want to know more about Dhaka or Bangladesh as a whole, you can message Asif on the contacts that he shared with us. So thank you, Asif. Now we are moving on to